What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 175, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and yes, I shaved everything, all right? So if you're a video watching us right now, I look a little different than I have, but we're still here with tons of Xbox news and generally a great discussion. But before we get to that, got to introduce my co-host, JamPackSam. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? I'm excited. You said you shaved everything. That does
Ooh,
not leave a lot to the imagination.
you know, it was meant to everything you could see on camera. All right,
Okay.
just, phrasing. All right, I
Yeah,
reckon that phrasing
But
for
I'm
sure.
doing well, other than the way that the mental. Yeah. Ooh. No, but I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be here. I've been playing a ton of games in little small spurts here and there, so lots to talk about. But yeah, just hyped for another week of fun conversations.
Yeah, I am not excited about the return of winter up here in New York. Last week, 70 degrees. As I told you last Thursday, it was 70. I was walking, getting some pizza. Today, it's 20 something, snow. It's like a hurricane wind. I'm like, oh my God, it's freezing. I don't
Yeah,
know what's
we
going
are.
on.
We are living in the. I think that it's known as the pollening. I think I saw Luke Lore say something about the
Pollening.
pollening, where in North Carolina you've got fall, a little bit more fall, then you have the pollening, and then it's spring. Like we don't really have a winter; it's more of just like
Mm.
a deep fall. So we are currently in the pollening, where if you wash your car on Monday, by Tuesday it's green, and then you can just
Ugh.
kind of repeat that until I would say maybe like May, around Memorial Day is when things start leveling out. So that's not ideal down here, but I'll take that over snow any day of the week for sure.
Yeah, if you live in certain parts of New York, you'll get that. But I can't remember the last time I walked outside and there was pollen on my car. When I
Oh,
lived in a more rural area, it used to happen constantly. And then I would wake up every morning and sneeze for no exaggeration, 20 minutes straight. I would
oh yeah.
break a sweat just dying, and everybody like, "All right." I'm like, "It's just what I gotta go through as a human
Yeah.
being."
It's generally pretty miserable, but hey, that's more of a reason to stay inside and play video games. So just saying, I'm not gonna not take the win on that one.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the show with some housekeeping. This is Project X Talk. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/save the game media. If you are on YouTube, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of our latest content. We're pushing for 1,000 subscribers this year. We are closing in on 900 as we speak. So that would go a long way to help us. If you can't catch us live on YouTube, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review and follow the podcast. All right. I can see Spotify followers now. It's going up. All right. We're growing on the audio side. I appreciate every single one of you. But if for some reason you haven't followed us, just hit that button. It's free. If you want to support us further and get early access to Save the Game Media audio content, all of the shows in one feed and exclusive content, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, and Lee Navarro. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Now that we got that out of the way, though, Sam, let's dive right into what have you been playing this week, my friend?
I had a very wide gambit of things, if you can't tell. And so I kind of put these out of order. They're technically in order by the way that I played them, but not in the
Mm.
amount that I played.
Hmm.
So I've been playing the ever controversial Battlefront Classic Collection a lot over the course of the past week. And have you been keeping up with the various controversies surrounding this game?
So I haven't seen many more controversies. Like every time I see a post, like I saw they patched it and they fixed a lot of the crashing issues,
Mhm.
and they added inverted controls for all you weirdos out there that like your brain broken. I don't know what's going on with you people, but shout out Sean Capri, love you, buddy. Um, but I haven't seen many controversies apart from the game's bad, people are saying, and then I talked to actual people playing the game. They're like, "Nah, this is what I remember from the Xbox and PS2."
Yeah, I mean it's a conglomeration of a lot of things. So the servers were broken at launch. They fixed that pretty shortly after launch. There was the various bugs and lack of basically quality of life features, like you mentioned, inverted control, stuff like that. There's also the one about a modder says that his work or their work had
Oh,
been
I did see that. I did see that.
yeah, and they said that their work had been taken and used for a couple of the heroes in the game, and then that seems to have been patched out at launch. Like it seems to have potentially snuck into the retail release, like a pre-day one patch. I don't know the validity of that, so I'm just
Mhm.
kind of like not commenting on it as much as I can, because I just don't know. You can't trust any party these days, big or little. I have no idea. Um, so I have been kind of compartmentalizing that, whether that's healthy or not, the various controversies. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play this game as if I was just going in to play it. And I've spent a pretty significant amount of time. I'm almost finished with the Battlefront 2 campaign. I finished a
Oh,
round of
nice.
Galactic Conquest from start to finish. Like I'm just kind of like spending a lot of time with instant action, the various modes and stuff. And it's just fun to be back in these games that I played when I was a kid. It's kind of the same
Mhm.
thing that I mentioned last week, where is it the best possible experience in terms of like modern gameplay? Probably not. And then I think there's also a lot of misunderstanding around the idea that these were remasters. Like that was just kind of the expectation. If you're talking about bringing
Mhm.
something back, people wanted it to be remastered, and that's just not what this is. Like it's a collection of two repackaged versions of older games that just happen to run pretty good on modern hardware. Like it's high frame rate and stuff, but it doesn't look any better than it did back in the day by any big stretch. So, considering all of that, I'm having a good time with it. Again, a code was provided for me for review, so I did not buy this, pay out of pocket for it. But, is it worth 35 bucks? Ease of access, accessibility of getting it. I mean, you could probably get the old versions on Xbox that are backwards compatible for like a fraction of the price and have just as much fun. But if you want like some slight improvements, then yeah, wait for a sale, see if you want to pick it up. But online works perfectly. I sent you a DM over the weekend. I was
Mhm.
like, it's nostalgia. Like if you want nostalgia, it's nostalgia. It's kind of where it's
Yeah, that DM basically convinced me to just I'll keep waiting for some patches and see like maybe they will improve it at some point so matches last longer than 2 minutes.
at.
So right now I'm in that waiting phase or like I'm sure when it's on like a deep sale, I'll pick it up regardless of what state it's in. But I do hope it continues to get patched and just improve all around. I did actually see the original Xbox games. They're on sale for like $8 or something, and I'm like, yeah, you can get these if you want. If you only care about single player, might as well just grab those ones.
Yeah, and I mean, let's all be realistic here. When these hit the airwaves, the nostalgia takes over and you're like, "Oh yeah, the glory days of Battlefront 2 are back." Most people are going to play this for roughly an hour to 2 hours, drop it and never come back. So if we are all lying to ourselves thinking these servers are going to be full in August, okay, sure. Like you're going to maybe have a couple hundred people playing, maybe on a Saturday night. Um so yeah, if you are just in it for the nostalgia, the old ones are just as good. But another thing I've been playing is the final season 2. And I think we talked about the finals in like December whenever it shadow
Yeah.
dropped during the Game Awards. And I started playing it back then. It didn't really grab me. And so with season 2, it came out and it's got like this synthwave kind of vibe to it, where it's got really cool map with night and day modes. And it's this theme of the tournament got hacked, is basically what the underlying story is. But I spent a couple of hours with it, and I ended up putting probably, I would say, 6 hours into it over the course of a couple of days.
Nice.
And I really, really enjoy what the finals is bringing. Of course, this is made by former Battlefield developers, or at least a team led by former Battlefield developers. And the destruction is what this game is all about. Like you can break through walls, totally wreck pretty much everything in sight. Lots of environmental I guess interactions is the best way to put it. But the gunplay is great. The new mode that they threw in is pretty fun. It's kind of like a point control thing where you've got to stand on the point and it moves around the map. And so you've got to kind of
Mhm.
control that. But yeah, lots of verticality, lots of movement in the game, very fast paced. And it was a fun way to kind of switch it up. I've been going back and forth between the Halo and the Battlefield. And so this is something that kind of felt fresh for me, totally free to play. So I was just diving in. And I don't know if I'm going to go back to get the battle pass because I don't know how long I'm going to be staying. But really, really fun time. So I'm enjoying that as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised the finals has kind of stuck around for as long as it has, and I've only heard good things about like the people that jump in. They tend to really have a good time with it, and I thought it was going to kind of fade away. But season 2, I saw that dropped, and it was funny as you were saying. The tournament has been hacked, and then I was
Yeah.
like, this is awkward seeing as an Apex Legends tournament was
Yeah.
hacked over the weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely a
Very
marketing
on the
ploy
nose.
for sure.
Yeah, they teamed up for it. They're like, it was, that would be, they're like the finals. That was like, it was us. We
Yeah,
did it.
that's how they win. But yeah, I mean, if anybody's looking for something that's not in that battle royale phase, but you want a free to play shooter, the finals is definitely one that's going to be good. And then outside of that, yesterday I spent some time kind of like I'm in that mode where I want to play something new, but I'm not really sure where I want to go. Like
Hmm.
Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming out, reviews look great. I'm sure we'll touch on that at some point. So I try to go back and play some Dark Arisen. That's a 10-year-old game. It sure
Oh
is.
no.
Yeah, it's just like I get the draw of it, but I'm just not sure I'm gonna stick around with it. Then I switched over to the Sandland demo. That that sure is a Sandland
Oh
demo.
no.
You know, like it's a tank. It's fun. It's fine. You know, but it's just a tank game. Like you're having a good time with a tank game. And it wasn't really scratching the itch, so I started playing Brotato, which is like Vampire Survivors with weapons. So I just
Hmm.
did a whole lot of random gaming over the past 24 hours. But we'll find something to settle in on. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Probably not Dragon's Dogma, but we'll see. And that's kind of what I've been doing.
I was gonna say with your experience with Dark Arisen there, but then you see Dragon's Dogma 2 getting the 89, I think
Yeah.
it's sitting at. Like people are talking it up for Game of the Year contenders. I know some of our colleagues, I think XCP Luke has been playing it, Mr. Badbit. I saw talking about how they're loving it. Well, Console Creatures over them, they had a review for it too. Is that one drawing you at all? Because I don't know what it is. Like I love RPGs, I love fantasy RPGs especially, but when I look at Dragon Dogma 2, I'm not captured by it. Like nothing makes me like I really want to play that right now.
Yeah, I think that so we've talked a lot on the show about how my tastes are changing. Like they've changed a lot over the past couple of years in particular. And so with Dragon's Dogma, the reason I started playing Dark Arisen is because the review embargo had dropped yesterday
Hmm.
or the conversation was starting to kind of like populate. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do the monetarily responsible thing
Play the
and
old one.
play the old one that I've got in my library that I haven't played. So I booted it up. I'm kind of in the same boat where it's not a world that really grabs me, but I'm kind of caught up in the hype machine in a way. Um, and looking at the gameplay, I think the only thing that's a little bit, I guess, scaring me off from it is that I'm not sure I'm in the mindset for like a big, meaty RPG where I've got to go through and like the value of the game or the fun of the game is in the dialogue options and talking
Hmm.
to the NPCs. And like I'm coming off of wanting to play the finals and going back to Halo Infinite and these fast paced shooters and to sit down and get like an individual quest storyline mentally you've got to be kind of tuned in for that, and I just don't know if I'm right there right now. So might wait for a sale. If I avoided the hype around Helldivers, I'm pretty sure I can avoid the hype around Dragon's Dogma 2. Knowing myself and what I would like, if I dodged Helldivers, I could dodge Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, that was impressive that you managed to hold out for Helldivers. And Helldivers, another game, still holding on to
It
some
is. It
people. I've
is.
kind of fallen off of it recently. My group has kind of moved on to other things,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Um, the progression doesn't really feel all that rewarding to me in
Mm.
Helldivers right now. So that's really where I am with it. Sandland, I saw some people, as you were saying, it's a tank game. That's you just
Hmm.
drive around in the tank, and I was like, yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be. And R.I.P. Akira Toriyama, obviously,
Absolutely.
but not for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, I have been playing some games. So I knocked out Mail Mole, as I talked about last week, that 3D platform where you plays the mail, as the mole delivering letters and powering up your island. I beat that yesterday because I'm off work for a week until I start my new job. So I've had some time to play some games about 3 to 4-ish hours. It was fine. The levels get a little tricky at the end with some like
Mm.
disappearing platforms, and there is like more challenge to the game as you go along, which I was happy to see about that. Shout out to Luke and Silcana in the chat. Nice to see you guys. Um, I also knocked out Heavy Rain today. Me and the
Ah,
girlfriend finished it, and good plot twist at the end. Didn't see it coming. Everything I thought was going to happen didn't happen, and I was like, okay, story wise, I think they have a pretty decent like package here. Gameplay wise, still think the game is absolutely dated. Like it's horrible. I don't know
yeah.
what they're doing with that. Um, she liked it enough that she's like, let's move on to one of their next games. So I think we're going to play Beyond Two Souls next. And I have no idea what that game is about, but
Didn't that one come out
downloaded.
after Heavy Rain? Heavy
It
Rain was
did.
like the earlier one, yeah.
Yeah, it did. And it has Willem Dafoe in it and Elliot Page, I see from
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So
This is coming back to me now. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that th the older I get, the more that I forget the games that feel like they came out recently did not actually come out recently. Like with Dragon's Dogma, I'm like, "Oh, this game came out in 2012. Oh, that was 12 years ago."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Heavy Rain." I think that came out in like '08, '09. Still feels like a kind of like newer PlayStation game in my mind, even though it's like, we're a few years away from 20. How about that?
You know what it is? It's because they were on the PS4. And in my mind, the PS4 was 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was like, yeah, but then what about the 8 years before that, you know?
Yeah, so Heavy
So
Rain dropped in 2010. So we're
close.
going on 15 years, that one. So it's
Mm.
yeah, we are Heavy Rain is about the same age as most Fortnite players. So,
Oh my
that's
God.
something to think about. You can rest on that one for a minute.
I also beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Nice.
Knocked that one out over the weekend. And we're gonna do a spoiler cast on. I think me, Kyle, and Sam Heaney. I think we're gonna record that on Saturday. I'll put out a question thread in the Discord for anyone that wants to get their questions in for that, as we've all beaten the game. I still think the game is a little too Ubisoft with the open world, but the story, especially the last two chapters, even if I think the second to last one is way too long, like 4 hours, and then the last chapter is like an hour. Um, there's a little pacing issue there, but they
Mhm.
wrap it up really nicely. Like
Nice.
I'm excited to see where the third installment goes. That things this was a more faithful iteration that compared to remake, where I think they changed more, but like the things at the end here were just phenomenal. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that. But I was kind of in a gaming drought. I wouldn't say a drought. I was feeling like, oh man, I don't know what to play now. Like I beat Rebirth. What do I do? What do I do? So my first thought was like, I'll go platinum a Plague Tale Requiem. I'll do a replay of that. Get the platinum on
Mhm.
PS5. I got the 100% on Xbox. Nah. I played one chapter. I was like, I'm not feeling this right now, and I
Yep.
absolutely love this game. I don't want to play it when I'm not feeling it. So I'm gonna find something else. And what I found was Star Ocean: The Second Story R, which is another JRPG. It's a remake of a classic Star Ocean game that I've never played. And so I've been playing. I've started that today. I am 30% done with it, according to my PlayStation already. So it's not that long of a game. I think I can knock it out in 15 ish hours, probably, maybe 20 if things really go off the rails. It's good. I think the combat is still a little dated. There are times where my characters just kind of die and I don't know why. It's got that old school, a lot of like instant kill mentality. There's no block button as far as I can tell. There's only a dodge, and like if you dodge at the right time, it'll parry. There is a lot of interesting upgrade systems. Like you could absolutely make your characters busted in this game if you grind enough and upgrade your points, because there's things like you'll automatically teleport behind the enemy, and if you're behind them it's an automatic like weak spot hit. So like there are just things like that where if you want to, you can make your characters busted. And so I'll be grinding, trying to get over leveled, and then I'll go to the next area and then I'll start getting smacked around. I'm like, all right, now I gotta really sit here for a little bit before I progress. Still not entirely sure what the story is. It's very vague. It's like go on a journey to find this thing, and that's kind of where we've been at for the entirety of the game so far. We just keep going town to town, and they're like, bandits took the kids, go rescue them. I'm like, all right, here we go. We're off into
Yeah.
the woods. But it's fun. It's what I'm looking for right now. Like not overly story and dialogue heavy, but just enough that I'm like interested and can feel like engaged.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm excited to continue trying different stuff out. Like I want to get back to Dead Island 2 this week because it feels like we're both in the same spot of like kind of need a palate cleanser where
Hmm.
coming off of games in between whatever I want to play next, the backlog, I think I'm going to sit down this week and make a real list, like of things that I need to play, like intentionally. But hey, there's fun to be had, finding your friend, a JRPG you might not have played otherwise, or whatever game you find yourself falling into. So I'm glad you're finding some fun in it, even if the story is just kind of floating around out there.
Well, my palate cleanser was going to be a 3D platformer. I bought like literally back in August, I think that this game has just been sitting on my PS5. It's called Demon Turf. It's your character is 2D, but the environments are 3D. It looked
That's cool.
very cool. I saw it at a indie showcase ages ago. I was like, I'll pick this up for $12 or whatever. It was and then I played maybe an hour and a half, and I was like, I don't know if I'm just not feeling this right now or if the game is bad because it has
Yeah.
overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. But I'm like, I don't like this right now. I'm going to stop playing this before I completely am like, this game is horrible. Because I was talking to Seth Sturgill over at Carpool, who's also played it, and he was kind of sharing similar sentiments to me about this game because whenever it's a 3D platform, I go to him. He knows what's up. Him and me got that 3D platformer connection. But he was like, "Yeah, game didn't do it for me." I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna put this down before I ruin this for myself, which it might come back to in the future. But if not, $10, it is what it is."
Yeah, that's what I love about the little podcast community that we've kind of found where we've got our people, and it's like there's the giant mob hive mentality of like this game is great. There's nobody that can say otherwise. And then you'll have like individuals within the groups that are like, actually, I don't think so. And that's okay. Like that's yeah, I totally hear you on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
the logo actually. Push your little glasses on.
Actually, yeah.
Actually. But that's all I've been playing this week. I got lots of time. I'll see how far I can get in Star Ocean, and then we'll go from there. But Sam, unless you got anything else, why don't we jump into the news for this week?
Let's do it.
All right. Story number one, we got a new trailer from Skydance Media. They've revealed their Captain America and Black Panther game. The Amy Henning led studio officially revealed a cinematic trailer for their new game, which is now titled 1943 Rise of Hydra. They listed it as an Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. It's meant to come out in 2025. Did you see this trailer, Sam?
I did, and I have light thoughts on it,
Okay. Yeah.
just to fill the people in a little bit. Of course, this is coming from one of the co-creators or a studio led by one of the co-creators of Uncharted. So
Hmm.
the storytelling I guess power that's packed into the mind of Amy Hennig is pretty that's a big deal, to have on your team, especially when you combine that with the world of Marvel. Um, Coming off of the trailer, I just want gameplay. I think that's what we really are taking away from it. But the overall story of it being set in this kind of like World War II era where you've got looks like Captain and Black Panther of the era going head to head, and kind of like having that kerfuffle in the middle of this really interesting era of Marvel. I like it because it's not just another Avengers game, or it's not
Hmm.
just a Captain America game, or another Black Panther game, or whatever. Fitting the mold of what Marvel's kind of like tuned us to expect. It's something that feels a little bit more like I kind of want to say like a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, where it's like it's not really a cookie cutter story in terms of like characters and an era, but it does have some icons that are also being used in a unique way. So I'm excited about it. But overall, what did you think? How were your first impressions of this?
My first impressions were pretty positive, to be honest. I'm not an Uncharted guy. I like The Last of Us. That's
Mhm.
my Naughty Dog experience. So I never really got into the Uncharted series. So I was a little apprehensive. Like Amy Henning's name, I know she's huge in the industry. She doesn't personally hold a lot of weight for me. Like I'm not sitting there like, oh my God, I can't wait for her next game. Looking at this though, I was like, this looks visually very impressive. Like Unreal Engine 5, they said it was a tech demo, and it looks it. This is showing off the fantastic new engine that games are going to start using. I do expect the game to be one of those over the shoulder third person narrative style games. And there's almost a little clip of that, I think, for Captain America. The camera like goes behind him in one of the shots. And I'm like, yeah, that is like the transition to gameplay. I can totally see coming out of the cutscene, camera behind you, sort of that Uncharted, God of War, that, you know, the camera that PlayStation games sort of take. That is what I fully expect for this game. That being said, I'm completely okay with that. I think the story that they're building, where you sort of have Steve versus the Black Panther of the World War II era going against each other. I think they're both trying to stop the Nazis, it seems
Yes.
like, obviously, but they're butting heads. Maybe I want to know like what the conflict is between them, because I'm a huge Marvel guy. I love every Marvel movie still. Everyone says they're on the decline. I'm still day one for all of them. I don't care. This is just really exciting to me. So yeah, I would love to see some more gameplay of what we're actually going to be doing. I imagine, if I just had to guess, it's going to be chapter by chapter. Like you're going to play as Cap, then maybe a Black Panther, you know, sort of switching back and forth, getting both perspectives coming together for certain key moments. And then eventually they'll work together at the end. Like if I had to guess, that is what I think would happen. 2025, though, are you surprised coming so soon?
I mean, so soon, I would say like surprised that we're at the point where it's not. I mean, I guess I'm saying this in the year 2024, so I guess maybe I'm
Hmm.
speaking out of turn. I still mentally am in 2023. So no, I mean, I don't think I'm really that shocked because I think this has been cooking for a while. And if anything, I think that maybe this is kind of how things like this should go, where now it's still going to be a year of speculation and podcasting conversation and back and forth around what it could be, what we want it to be, that kind of thing. But the sooner that we can get back to that kind of like Fallout 4 Bethesda setup of, hey, this is coming out. It's June. You're going to get this in September, October, November. Like that 6 month time frame window was really great back in the day. Um, and so, yeah, I think it looks great. I think it plays great. I mean, we've got to assume that it's also going to be they're both going after Red Skull, right? Like
Hmm.
it's got to be a Red Skull integrated kind of thing. And then I'm really excited about the premise of like Black Panther being told to stick to the rooftops. So, like in my mind, are we thinking about like an Assassin's Creed parkour style, maybe not open world, but something that's more compartmentalized on like a level based system, maybe like an Assassin's Creed Hitman, where it's like you play as Black Panther. That sounds really neat to me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited about the story they're telling. I think it's set up in a really unique way, and I think we need more unique ideas that are still able to tap into that nostalgia or that fanfare that kind of drives and powers a lot of this kind of game, but that still does something that's not in that cookie cutter, like I was saying earlier.
Oh yeah, this I'm really, and I've seen people online. They're like, oh, so it's not co-op, it's not like live service. You know, but there are people actually disappointed, and I was like, did we not learn anything from Avengers, from Suicide Squad? Like, let's take a step back. Let's do something other than what we've been doing that people haven't liked. Let's give people the single player style games and see what, because for all of Avengers' faults, I think it starts off the story pretty good. It falls apart once they start introducing all the live service elements, but it started off pretty good with like Kamala Khan. So there is a world where this comes out and it's like it's a great narrative single player game that, even if you're not a Marvel fan, there's still going to be like fun experience for you here, especially because this story hasn't been beaten to death. Like it isn't another Avengers game where we've seen the Avengers 5,000 times over the last few years, whether it's in movies or in games. You know, so this is two characters that, while Captain America is probably more prominent, Black Panther has only really had that one DLC in Avengers.
Yeah. I think that I want to see where it goes. And I also am interested to see where I don't want to say this universe kind of starts to build out, but I think there's an opportunity to have more DC and Marvel games in the mix that aren't establishing a new franchise, sequel to the sequel, like a
Hmm.
continual series of things. Like if this is a one and done little Marvel adventure with Cap and Black Panther, that sounds great. You know, like just be sure to make it something that's worth me playing, worth me hearing about, and then I'm going to be happy camper and try new stuff. Like I know in the TV world, Star Wars is all over the place with tons of different stuff that taps into different eras, like the Acolyte trailer that came out earlier this week. Like seeing that kind of translated into the world of games could be interesting. And I say this as somebody who's seen the vitriol from Star Wars fans online, so I'm probably going to get hate mail from that. But hey, I'll speak my piece.
Yeah, we don't need a 1944. All right.
Yeah, we'll just continue year after year until
Year
we get
after
up to modern
year.
day. Yeah, it's great.
Wolverine was back around during this time. 1944 could be a Wolverine game, although Sony probably has the rights to.
Yeah,
That'll
probably it
say
probably has a little copyright
yeah.
issue with that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to story number 2 because we got a pretty big Game Pass update for the second half of March. So, available right now, we got a whole bunch of games you can play with your Game Pass subscription. Lightyear Frontier is out in game preview for cloud PC and Xbox Series X and S. MLB The Show 2024 for cloud and console. The Quarry is out for cloud and console. Evil West is out for cloud, console, and PC. March 26th, you get Terra Invicta for game preview on PC. March 28th, Diablo 4 finally coming to console and PC Game Pass as the first Activision Blizzard game that we're finally getting on the Game Pass. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged comes the same day for cloud, console, and PC. Open Roads also comes for cloud, console, PC. April 1st, Ark Survival Ascended, which is, I believe, the Unreal Engine 5 remake of Ark, comes to cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. And then April 2nd, F1 23 for cloud, and Super Hot Mind Control Delete for cloud, console, and PC. Sam, any of those piquing your interest?
You know it, man. I mean, this is we talk month over month about how like the past few months have been good, not great. They're good. There's some really good games that are always coming and going in Game Pass, but this is the first real month where it's like, all right, we're starting to kind of inch into that spring/summer release season where Game Pass is cranking up. Clearly, they're starting to get a lot of pieces falling into place. I think that for me, out of all of these, starting with the first little run of them there, Evil West is a big one that I've been wanting to check out. And it's just kind of one of those ones that was always on the list, yet that we all have, but I never got around to playing it or buying it. And so, yeah, totally going to check out Evil West. And then also The Quarry. I think that that's a really good one for me and the fiance. And it's not typically something we would play. I think it's a really good example of something that we're interested in, or at least I'm interested in, and I'm going to force you to play it. But the fact that it's on Game Pass just makes it so much easier to say, hey, sure, let's download it, give it a shot, see if it's something that we enjoy. So those are definitely the first two out of the lineup. And then, yeah, I mean, Diablo 4 coming, adding more people into that game, just going to keep the life of it going for even longer. I know we have a new season on the way that I'm sure is going to be torn apart and super controversial, but hey, it'll come along the way. And yeah, I mean, some other good stuff in there. But what about you? What's capturing your attention in this lineup?
So I will say that I've actually played a lot of the games coming this batch that I would have been interested in. So I played The Quarry on PlayStation. Me and the girlfriend played through it, and we both really liked it. I think this is one of Supermassive's best games. It has it, it has that Friday the 13th feel, I would say. If you know what I'm like, the teens at the camp. It's that kind of setup. So if you're
Mhm.
into those sort of like cheesy horror movies, there's a good time here for you to have. Evil West, I've also already played, Sam. This game is awesome.
Nice.
Especially because I played it at launch when there were a few technical bugs. I'm pretty sure they've been patched now. If you can find a co-op partner, even better in co-op. This is a straight up 360 style game where it's a linear game. The story is whatever. I didn't really care about the story at all, but the gameplay is awesome. Like third person shooting feels really good, but then you get this like electric gauntlet that allows you to teleport and you just beat the crap close up out of enemies. It's so cool, man. I loved Evil West.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that I've been wanting to play it. I think that in my mind, Evil West is going to be the game that I wanted Weird West to be. These are two
Mhm.
very different games,
Mhm.
like super different in terms of gameplay, but like going into Weird West, Whenever I was playing Weird West, I had wished that it was kind of like more action focused and a little bit more fast paced shooting kind of thing for me. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Evil West, based on the snippets of gameplay I've seen, is basically like Call of Juarez Gunslinger, but with like kind of like I don't
Yeah.
know how you want to say it, like cursed vibe to it. I don't know.
Like vampire, yeah, vampires or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's cool, man. It's not that long either. It's like it's that 360 era. Like I was saying, they know they knew game pacing back then. They knew games should be 8-ish hours long, and then you're good. Like it's a good solid time. You had a blast.
yeah, that's exciting for me. And then I'm definitely playing that one solo. And then going back to the quarry, I'm all about that like kind of camp thing. That summer camp getting attacked by a monster vibe. I'm a huge fan of that. There are those movies on Netflix that are all it's like 3 horror movies that came out a couple of years ago. I forget what the names of them
Oh,
are.
Fear Street.
Fear Street, yes. So like anything that has the vibe of Fear Street, I'm all about. Like Fear Street's one of my favorite things I've ever watched on Netflix, and I'm getting some of that. Like The
Mm-hmm.
Quarry feels a little bit serious, in terms of like the tone, but that like teenagers getting hunted by a monster thing, all about it. Love that.
Yeah, it's really good. And then obviously Diablo 4, I already own the Ultimate Edition. Like I bought it
Yeah.
at launch. Awesome to see ABK games finally coming in. We do have a question about Diablo 4 though from Ghostly March who writes in, have you guys seen the changes coming to Diablo 4? Will it convince you to maybe hop back in?
Yeah, it's a good
Uh,
question.
have you I am not familiar. I have not been keeping up with Diablo 4. Do you know what changes they are referring to?
So on a very deep level, no, I'm not super familiar with like the various individual changes. I know they're like adding a legendary trading system so that if you play with friends, it's easier to like trade good loot that's more relevant to another class. I know they're pretty much redesigning the majority of the loot system from what I was reading this morning. They've just got a lot of like big fundamental changes. I think one of the PC Gamer articles I was reading was they basically are making this and it's almost as many changes to warrant like calling it Diablo 5. Like it
That's
is a
literally the article I just clicked on to read what's
yeah,
going on here.
like it's a massive shift in the way that the game works. And so for me, I'm a very story-based guy. Like I'm not really the end game grinder kind of person, but I'm a sucker for some seasonal content. And if the mood strikes, I might go back to it. It's just one of those things where I'm just personally tired of feeling compelled to go back to play something just because there's this time limit arbitrarily placed on whatever season might be happening, which is exactly what they're designed to do. So they're functioning the way they're intended. But I might go back and give it a shot. What are you feeling? Would you ever go back to Diablo 4 to give a season a shot if there's some pretty big changes?
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of been waiting for like a massive revamp like this, and I'm reading just glossing through it right now, where they're talking about how the new loot system. I've had Diablo 4 installed since it came out. Like I
Nice.
update it every time there's an update. So like I've been waiting for the moment when I'm like, this is what brings me back, because like the previous seasons where they've been fun from what I've heard, but they haven't been enough for me to like, oh, the game hasn't fundamentally changed enough that I now feel good like going in and like I'm gonna have a rewarding experience. This seems like it could be what I was waiting for. Just reading these like the way changing customizing your loot works now is really enticing to me. New bosses, new end game activities, they're saying like yeah, I might the John Wick, I'm thinking I'm back, uh so yeah, when does the season come out?
I
I'm
think
looking for a date.
they got a delay. I think it's May something.
Oh, okay, so plenty of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it got kicked out by a couple of weeks, I believe. But for me, it's like going back to Diablo. I went back for season 2 and I really enjoyed because that was around Halloween time and I really enjoyed the season 2 content that they had introduced. And I'm very much so a casual Diablo player, but when I get into it, like I get into it in terms of just turning the brain off, grinding through dungeons, just having a good time with it. Um, and it is always a really good, enjoyable experience. So I would love to be able to go back. Maybe we'll team up, dive back in together,
Hmm.
potentially seeing what the season 4 content has to offer. That'd be fun.
Yeah, because I've really only like play with Kyle, my brother. So we got room. We can all squad up. I'm down
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. I'll roll a new character.
Oh, all right. Well, That's really I have no interest in most of these other games. MLB The Show, obviously huge, yeah, for Game Pass, as we've talked about in the past,
Yep.
like baseball, huge. It's great. Just a classic every year that they seem to want to get on. I have no interest in Ark. I did try the original Ark, and it was kind of that game that made me realize, yeah, survival games aren't for me. This is not my jam.
Yeah, so the Survival Ascended is the remaster, right? That's
I
the
believe so.
idea.
The Unreal Engine 5, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've always wanted to get back into it and play it, but yeah, I just don't know. I mean, after Pal World, after playing a little bit of Valheim, maybe because I've heard Ark is so good, but it's just not. Maybe if it scratches the itch, it'll be nice to have in the library. I also wanted to ask,
Hmm.
at what point did we stop reviewing sports games? Because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but like Madden, MLB The Show, just it doesn't really feel like there's a lot out there. Like Metacritic, I think has 5 reviews right now for MLB The Show 24.
I
And
know MLB was Open Critic. It was sitting at a 75, is what our fantasy critic bot told me.
oh,
But it's not eligible for like at least our league though that we are doing, because I said no sports games because, and this might answer your question, why did we stop reviewing them? They're basically the same every year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just assumed that was the case, but it just seems weird that it's like y'all really aren't going for that SEO, where it's like you could just review the game and just say pretty much. There was one Madden review a couple of years ago where it was like it's basically the same article, so go back and read
The
that one because it's the exact same
IGN
game.
has done that multiple times with the FIFA. I think they did it for like 3 years in a row with the FIFA on Switch, because they were like,
Yeah,
"This is the same game as FIFA 21. This is the same game as FIFA 22." Like, just
yep.
go read those ones, and they just gave it like a 2 out of 10 every year.
Yeah, it's just sad because I'm like, I just wish these games would innovate more, but also like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't blame them either. But yeah, that's just me getting up on my pedestal. It is cool to see him in Game Pass. Congrats to all the basketball, or I mean the baseball fans. And then if you're into basketball, enjoy March Madness because I have not watched 2 seconds of that. So have a good
I
time.
forgot that was a thing. I know NBA 2K is also in Game Pass now. You gonna
Oh
play
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
All right, our final news story of the day. Got some changes to the Microsoft rewards programs. I will say, when I saw the headline for this, I got really worried and upset, because I think some of the headlines made this seem a little more drastic than it actually is. But Microsoft has announced some changes to Microsoft Rewards. The first change will see the Microsoft Rewards app on Xbox consoles retired, and the weekly sets and streaks will be discontinued on April 15th. Instead, a new weekly bonus in the Xbox Rewards Hub will award users for playing a game of their choice on multiple occasions that week. Users will still earn points for playing games on Xbox and PC Game Pass, buying games, Bing searches, completing the Microsoft Rewards on the web browser, and more. But they do expect, quote, some users to earn less points initially. So this is probably like a very niche story that, Sam, I don't even know if you care about, but I got to tell you, I use Microsoft Rewards every single day. It's like one of the first things I do when I open my phone is I do my rewards. I've probably spent over 40,000 points already this year, like to get gift cards, and like I've bought a few games through those. Like, this is something that does affect me. Luckily, it's not as drastic as some people are making out to be. They made it seem like the whole system was being revamped and we weren't going to be able to get points anymore. But it just kind of seems like it's migrating to a new location.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I am not the guy that's going to be up in arms about this. I do know, like you said, there are people out there that pay attention to Microsoft rewards. Like my mom loves coupons, where like just trying to get as many as possible, playing the match 3 game in the mobile app every day. Like
Duel
everybody's
2,
trying
let's
their
go.
best. Yeah, exactly. Um, but for me, it's like I collect them. I get the rewards. Occasionally, I'll get a $10 gift card because I have auto redeem set up because it's slightly
Hmm.
cheaper than the regular, like
Hmm.
buying a $10 gift card
Hmm.
with the points. So I'm not really out there grinding. I think if anything, it's nice to kind of see them doing some housekeeping and making it less compartmentalized in different areas of Microsoft. And so at least it's one combined entity that's easy to explore and kind of find and find what you want to get. So no issues from me. I saw some people up in arms on Twitter about it, but hey, it's another day on Twitter. What else is
Yeah, I think people, like I said, there were a few headlines out there that made this seem more drastic than it actually is. And that's because there's been a lot of discussion about Microsoft Rewards recently because Microsoft couldn't seem to figure out what they wanted to do with this program. I know there was a period there for maybe 2 weeks where they nerfed rewards across the board. Like instead of 10 and 30 points, things were worth 1 and 3 points.
Wow.
And that really made people mad. And they reverted that. And since then, everything's been smooth sailing. So I think people were just expecting the floor to fall out again. But like I said, this really isn't that big of a deal. So everyone just, you got to go to the new Xbox Rewards Hub. All right. You can't do everything through the Xbox app anymore, or you can go to the tab on your console. It's all good.
It's all good.
Let's end with some listener questions. We only got one more listener question for the show, and it comes from Silcanit, who says, after the PS5 Pro spec leaks, do you think the hardware mentioned during the business update will be a mid-gen refresh for Xbox?
I mean, I think that they've kind of addressed this already. It's a good question of if the plans have changed. Um, I personally think that it would probably be more like something that's a handheld model of an Xbox or some kind of handheld device that meets people in the middle, maybe a PlayStation Portal style thing that's more geared towards Xbox cloud gaming that's in that $150 to $200 price range. Um, I do think that we're starting to talk about next gen or some kind of upgrade. It feels earlier than it ever has, but also these conversations are going to naturally start whenever PlayStation rumors of a PS5 Pro start. What is Xbox going to respond with? And it's a question of what does the PS5 Pro actually offer? How are developers scaling the experience within their games? Will something like Grand Theft Auto 6 be 60 FPS across the board with some kind of 120 on PS5 Pro, or is it going to be stunted on basic consoles that we have now? A lot of questions like that are out there flying around that no one really knows the answer to. But I would say it's probably going to be like a handheld thing. I think that if anything, Xbox would focus more on the research and development of a true next gen piece of hardware that they can really come out swinging and say, this is going to be so much better than anything starting in 2027, 2028. Maybe it could make a lot more sense. What about you?
I still very much believe that the hardware that they were referencing is the all digital Series X,
Yeah.
the console, that the cylinder console that we saw during the leaks. I just don't see Xbox doing a Pro variant this generation, especially when the majority of their console sales are the Series S. If anything, like you were saying, I think they want to figure out what are cheaper ways that we can get people in, and whether that's a handheld like Jez Corden has been teasing a lot recently. I don't know if it is a handheld. The one thing I will say is I would like to see them release, like, I assume it would have to have like a custom operating system, right, to have all your Xbox library there natively in a handheld format. I would love, and I tweeted this out because Paris Lilly was talking about this. I would love if they let that operating system be on handhelds that already exist. Like, let me download and install that on my ROG Ally. Let Steam Deck install that. So then you have people in the Xbox ecosystem without having to buy that new piece of hardware, which, if your ultimate goal is monthly active users, Game Pass subscribers, that's just another way to facilitate that, right? Like, you don't make people buy a custom Xbox TV to stream. You partnered with Samsung. So, like, work with your handheld partners, get that going. You can release your own hardware that comes installed, native, out of the box experience, ready to go. That's fine, but I would like to see that happen if a handheld does come out. I just don't see a Pro coming out for this. And if we're looking at the PS5 Pro specs, which I'm not a super technical guy, right? Like, I know, oh, the 4090 is a really good graphics card. I couldn't tell you like why. I can't dive into like the specifics
Yeah.
of CPU and GPU. But from what I've heard other people say, the jump from PS5 to PS5 Pro won't be as big as people were probably expecting it to be. Like you're going to get more consistent frame rates. You're going to get their DLSS sort of super resolution thing that PlayStation's kind of working on to improve the resolution when it's running at lower things internally, but then outputting better. I think all that's great. It's not enough for me to upgrade. Like when I'm looking at that, when I'm hearing people talk about what it would actually be, I just don't feel like the PS5 Pro is really enough of a jump that where I'm like, I'm just going to wait for the PS6 to come out. And that's how I feel with Xbox. Like I'm good with my Series X. If Xbox wants to start the next gen, it's been rumored in 2026, which I'm still a little like, I don't know if I fully believe all those rumors. Like I'm good waiting to the next Xbox. I really don't feel a need for mid-gen refreshes this generation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I said something on Threads that got a lot of traction, and a lot of people seem to agree. And it's that, like, I'm at a point, and I feel like hardware has evolved to a point where it doesn't really matter. Like, you're splitting hairs at this point, even looking at, and I mean, you can analyze it and go deep into it, but like, whenever Starfield launched, I played it first on the Xbox Series S because I was on vacation. And
Hmm.
then whenever I got home, I played it on the Xbox Series X. Yes, both versions of the game were at 30 frames per second. So, like, that takes a little bit out of this analysis. But comparing both of them, if I'm just playing the game and I'm just like going along doing my thing, I didn't really see a difference. Like, if I put them side by side, yeah, textures are probably lesser on the Series S. That you can pick things out, but fundamentally, for the majority of people that are just playing games, we're getting to a point where, like, if you have to go to a digital foundry analysis to see the difference
Oh, I
between,
hate it.
yeah, like if you have to go see the difference between PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC by seeing what Digital Foundry analyzes in their software, we're getting to the point where it doesn't really matter. And so with a PS5 Pro or an Xbox Series X, or I guess XX, whatever you want to, SXX, that's what we're going to call it. But you're getting to a point where it's like, how good does it really need to be? Like, I have a 4K 60 TV. I don't need 4K
Hmm.
120. It's fine. Like, I'm good with what I've got. And so, how hard do they really want to push before we start getting to the point where it's more about the in game rendering, seeing what people can do on their side that isn't something that hardware is powering, like tapping into the cloud, figuring out development magic? Stuff like that's really going to push the envelope. I just don't think that power really matters anymore.
Yeah, I think the Switch proved that, and it's been proving it. Where the Switch has sold crazy, but is a completely underpowered console. The Series S being the highest performing this generation for Xbox, also proving that. I think when I'm playing on my ROG Ally, like as long as I can get a consistent frame rate, like when I played Starfield on my ROG Ally, I was like 720 sounds great. If like 45 FPS, yeah, this is perfect for me. Like I don't need 60, like depending on where I'm at. And you see that for like it's like Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Like my brother played at the 30 FPS mode. I personally couldn't stand it. I did the 60 and was fine with the resolution drop. Like there are points where I'm like, okay, the lighting and like the textures aren't the best, but that isn't ruining my experience. And I think we're kind of getting to the point where a lot of people have that thought process where they're either like, I get the resolution I want or they get the frames I want. And one thing I will say, and I don't know if you agree with this, Sam, because I've seen a lot of people being like, I'm sick of choosing between quality and performance modes. If you think quality and performance modes are gonna go away, I have a bridge to sell to you because that is only going to maybe get worse with future iterations. Because I've seen people saying, like, PSI Pro, I won't have to choose between them. No, there's 100% going to be games with performance and quality mode. The quality the baseline is just going to be different. The performance is going to say like up to 120 FPS or something on the PS6.
Yeah.
Quality is going to say solid 4K, right? Like we're going to have high, like once you get more powerful hardware, they're just going to change the numbers for those modes. You're not just going to get rid of them entirely because those are essentially presets that PC players have been using for years now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, looking at the PC space, the fact that there are so many different variations of what a PC is, from a Steam Deck knockoff that's out there that's underpowered to the highest end, ultra gaming PC. They've got the fine tune for everything. And so now that they're just evolving to give a preset selection of that to console in some kind of way. And for me, like you were talking about Final Fantasy, I think about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, where when it launched, the performance mode was like in shambles. It was
Hmm.
really badly done when it first came out, and then it patched a couple of days later. It was fine. Um, but instead of playing in the performance mode, which I typically would have done, I
Hmm.
was like, all right, well, fidelity seems to be pretty stable. Like it doesn't really matter. I'll go in and play it. I sound like a console pleb. Admittedly, we also sound like console plebs right now to the PC elitist
I am a
level.
console player.
Same. So like as I'm playing Fidelity, I swear I'm buying into the cinematic excuse of like this feels more cinematic. I'm that guy where like
Plague
I
Tale
enjoyed.
Requiem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I enjoyed A Plague Tale Requiem. I enjoyed Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Both I enjoyed more because it felt like I was watching a movie and I was more ingrained in the experience than I was focused on like how buttery smooth things were. Um, so it does not bother me. I do not care that those are in there. I do not think they're going away. But yeah, it's just a really interesting conversation to have. And I think that there's a huge silent majority of people that you would go to and say, "Hey, what do you think about those two different modes in that game?" And they're like, "There are different modes." Like no one really cares. They're just playing the game.
I've talked to multiple people in some of the discords I'm in where they are like, well, I can't tell the difference between 720, 1080, and 4K anyway. I'm like, that blows my mind that you said those words, but I can't see through your eyes. It's the same when people tell me they can't see the difference between 30 and 60 FPS. And then I show them, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's like it's like a little video of balls moving at those
Yeah, I know
frame
what you're
rate.
talking about. Yeah.
And when I showed it to them, they're like, well, the 30 and 60 are moving the same. And I'm like, your eyes are broken. I don't know what to tell you. But like, live your best life. So if that's how you see the world, then I can understand. Like, you don't need a pro console. You're probably not worried about the performance and quality modes. Like, you're just here to experience the game. And I'm sure some of us could do with a little bit more of that and less worrying about, the 2 frame difference in certain cutscenes that Digital Foundry is pointing out. But my last positive thing I will say, as this hardware continues to get more powerful, if we get a PS5 Pro, PS6, Xbox Series XX, whatever, right? I'm looking forward to more options. And I think the example, a team that does this really well right now, Insomniac, they will often have like quality
Yeah.
performance, quality ray tracing, performance rate. Like they'll have like 5 different options where it's like if you got a 120 hertz TV, you'll play at 40 FPS with some ray tracing, but you still get that 4K. Like I am looking forward to more presets, more options to really be able to customize and without as in-depth as PC gets, where like I don't need to be altering shadows and all of that.
Yeah.
But like just give me some presets and let everyone have what they want.
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't miss from PC gaming is that I have to spend the first 15 minutes of getting a new game going in and being like, what does this anti-aliasing look like in my set? Like I don't want to do all that. But yeah, I'm all about different modes and options for people. And I really just want a more accessible development kit for people to actually make these games in a way that isn't putting a lot more on them, but that gives them the
Mhm.
power to do whatever they need to do with it. Like we talked about the Nintendo Switch. I mean, it seems like developers can wring that thing out like a towel and get as much as they can out of it in terms of power. I mean, some of these games that Nintendo's making in particular are on par with like just looking as good as some of the Xbox Series X games that are out there.
Mhm.
Um, and again, the Digital Foundry analysis would prove me wrong, but visually, like they look great.
But on my TV, through my eyes that are
Yeah.
broken and worn down from years of staring at said screen, all right, they look just as good.
Yeah, it looks just as good. So maybe what we all need to do is instead of buying a pro console, go out and we all buy LASIK. I think that's the
I
real
was gonna say
solution
we
here.
all go get glasses.
Yeah, we all go get your glasses, your contacts, and your LASIK, and then we'll talk about buying a new console because that at that point we can all tell a real difference. That's the real takeaway.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for us this week, Sam. I don't everyone go get LASIK. But Sam, Where can people find you, my friend, if they want to hear more from you?
Well, first, I want to thank our sponsor, LASIK. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, Lace over at
Yeah, shout out to LASIK.
America's Best.
Yeah, it's perfect. GlassesUSA.com/Kevin. But you can find me on Threads, on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, JamPackSam. Always having fun making content out there. Lots of good conversations this week about things like Dragon's Dogma and stuff. So it's been fun to be a part of that and to talk about all things gaming. But as always, happy to be here. Highlight of the week every week. So thank you for the invite as always.
Of course, of course. And you can find me at the Muffin Mon on those social media platforms. It's a 1 and 7 I and O and 7 A. Follow us at Save Game Media over there as well to stay up to date with the latest. Until next week, we will see you. Goodbye.